Hi, welcome to Mikey's Lab. I'm Tim Rose. I played Admiral Ackbar. And remember, it's a trap.
I know that kind of the beginning of where you come from in your puppeteering and your sculpting and your art.
Oh, yes? And where is that?
I want to take you all the way back to sitting on the floor of your dad's shop, right? When he was making models.
You've been doing your homework, yes?
I definitely have. And when he was building RC aircraft. And I wondered if you could pinpoint, like, is there a moment in time where you found that that would be what you wanted to do and that you could give these inanimate objects such life and make people fall in love with them so easily?
Well, I always claimed that I never actually did a puppet till I went to university. But of course, you have to be careful when you say something like that your second grade school teacher doesn't show up with the photograph of the puppet show that you did in second grade. So there were always puppets being brought to life and everything. Up till then, I was more into making the Monitor in the Merrimack and then having the massive battle scenes and, all that kind of thing. But when it really was, I couldn't decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. I enjoyed doing art, I enjoyed writing scripts, I enjoyed performing, I enjoyed all these different things. And suddenly with the puppets, I didn't need to give anything up. I could do all the things I liked because all of those disciplines were all covered somewhere in the process of building or performing a puppet. But the thing that really made me realize I could do puppets for a living, we were at university, they were doing Renaissance fairs, and we were all doing medieval plays, so we all had our little parts we were cast for. But we wanted to make it was the first time we'd done it at the university, so we wanted to make the fair as big as possible. So I researched medieval fairs, and I kept coming up with Bartholomew fairs on the frozen Thames in England, and Punch and Judy shows being done. So, in my idiocy, I'll do a Punch and Judy show. So I knew there was a couple. They were like a mom and pop marionette company. They were the kind that came around all the elementary schools when you were a kid and did a show for the auditorium crowd and everything. And I knew where they lived, so I went and I knocked on their door and I said, sorry, I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind teaching me how to make a puppet. Expecting to have the door go closed, thank you very much. And instead they brought me in, they took me downstairs to the cellar. And in their cellar, they were quite an old couple, and they'd been doing marionettes since the vaudeville days of the 20s.
Oh, God.
So on the wall, in plastic bags, were the most beautiful creations, one after the other, and hundreds of them. The walls just covered from one side to the other. And I just looked around that room, and I said, you can have that much fun building these wonderful things and live in a house that's this nice. Could you teach me how to make a puppet? That was it. I was convinced, if I could still do that and still, afford to live, then I wanted to do it.
It is amazing how much the artistic community, especially when it comes to filmmaking, that seems to be fighting gatekeeping, right? And you just described a perfect example of that, where these people how they made their money were more than willing to show a child how they made their money, whereas in several industries you get, no, that's secret knowledge, that's my knowledge, I've worked for 20 years to have it, you can't have it.
That's certainly most often the way it goes, yes.
And I've also noticed that a lot of people, yourself included, as I believe a self-proclaimed dyslexic.
Yes.
Right?
I am a dyslexic, yes, okay.
I'm ADHD. It's just interesting that the number of people I find in the creative industries are neuroatypical. Right, or neurodivergent, however you prefer to say it. And I'm wondering if you can think of a reason, or if you think there's any particular advantage to being neuroatypical in the artistic fields.
Oh, of course.
Is it just because we think outside of the box, or is it because we don't know where the box is?
Yeah, I don't know where the box is to start with. I was very lucky that my mother was a teacher in the school system that I went through, because far too often in their effort to help the next teacher, they do a little page of information on a student.
It follows you.
And once it gets put on that page, it's with you for the whole rest of your school life. And she refused to let them write down dyslexic on any of those pieces of paper. And there was lots of things I had problem with, like getting numbers in the right order, spelling things. I can't, to this day, I spell so badly, the spell checker in the computer can't work out what I've been trying to spell.
Fair enough.
That's pretty bad spelling, you know. But because I had to work out how to do things the way I did things, it also made me, I think, a very good animatronics designer. I don't know if you know that a lot of the stuff on the table, I actually built it before I performed it.
Oh, I am aware.
And I found that the guys that I was working with, they were like marching along, just following the rules, following what it said in the book, while I was sitting there and my brain was shooting right, shooting left, and I was like, well, let's put this and put that together with that and see if that worked over there. And it's like, oh, yeah, that works pretty good. How'd you come up with that? Nobody's ever done that before. Well, I don't know. It just did it, you know. So I always say when I get a lot of children come to the table and their parents say, oh, I'm sorry, he's got autistic or he's dyslexic. So I said, no.
I get excited when I
He's
hear
himself. He's himself. Don't don't try and hold him back. Don't give him a reason not to try. You know, just keep going and let it do it the way he has to do it. So that's...
Now, in another life, I'm a maker and as a profession, an electronics engineer. About Howard the Duck, I came across an interesting story that you would actually come onto the project too late to influence the actual puppet. Right? That you were in the last month and you got to puppet him, but you couldn't control the creation of him.
Yes.
As an engineer, that would drive me nuts. How did you deal with that?
I could fill up the whole rest of your tape just with this story, but yes.
As an engineer, as a puppeteer and engineer, obviously, how did you deal with having to take on somebody else's work that may not behave the way you think it should, right? And still perform what I think was an awesome role. Critics can disagree with me all they want, they're wrong. But
Howard the
it's
Duck
hard to
is the
pick up.
movie that I'm actually the proudest of, not because it was the world's greatest movie, but as an animatronics designer and performer, I contend that every shot that Howard is in, we kept that duck alive. If young people want to have a lesson on how to do an animatronic, particularly the eye blinks and eye movements and stuff, just watch Howard in that movie. It's consummate.
I rewatched it last
Steve
night.
Sleep, he's not with us anymore, God bless him, but he was brilliant running the eyes.
I literally rewatched the movie last night, and it's lost nothing. Right? It still runs through.
But did you see my motorcycle?
No, I didn't actually.
To convince me to come back and do the movie, I got George Lucas to buy me a Harley Davidson. And I was very proud of my Harley Davidson, and I completely forgot that I had done this. But when we're shooting the scene, Howard flies through space, he comes down to Earth, he lands in the garbage can, Leah's being picked on by her manager, and he comes and defends him, and then he dejectedly walks up the alleyway. Well, while they're laying down the tracks in the alleyway, I'm going, I want my motorcycle in the movie. So I ran off and I got it, and I parked it behind him where he was walking. And it was only when I just watched it myself again recently, I went, oh, my Harley. I don't have it anymore. Oh, that was my Harley. Oh.
That is an awesome story. I'm going to have to rewatch it just to see that now.
They sent me 10 Howard the Duck comics.
Okay.
I knew nothing. You know, when they asked me to come do this, Howard the Duck, Howard who, I knew nothing of Howard the Duck. So they sent me these 10 comics over in England, and I read the 10 comics, and I became an instant Howard the Duck fan. You know, this was Donald Duck, but with proper teeth, you know. I mean, he was good. I loved the character. Then I got over there, and there was this duck.
Yeah.
And it's like, so where's Howard?
Because that doesn't look anything like the comics.
No. It came down to the director. At this time, he didn't feel that you could have a cartoon character in a movie with real actors. Nobody done Roger Rabbit yet, nobody done, you know, so you couldn't do that. My contention was, if he doesn't look like Howard from the comics, then your base audience, your ones who already love Howard the Duck and going to tell all their friends you got to come see this, you're going to put them off instead of having them fall in love with it. They're going to be instantly, what's going on here, you know? So under the guise of saying, and it was true that this sculpt physically foam latex can only move so far. So it comes down to a combination of the design and the ability to put enough material in there to give it enough movement so you can get lovely natural movements out of it, which he had a problem with. And under the guise of just trying to make it move better, I did a second sculpt for Howard that maybe just happened to look a lot more like the one in the book.
I was wondering if you
really
stuck some
happy with it.
modifications in there.
I showed it to the director. I said, look how much better this moves. Look at the eyebrows. Look at how it's doing all this stuff. I don't care if it moves more. I want my duck. It's like, you don't care if something's only half as alive as the one that you just got made for you. Okay. All I can do is try, and then I have to listen to the boss. So, okay. So that was the story.
Do you still have that duck?
No, I'm not allowed to keep anything.
Fair enough. I had the honor and privilege of interviewing Adam Savage not long ago.
Okay.
And we talked about in an artistic person's development and career, there always seems to be a pivotal failure, right? For him, he took on way too much when he was still working as a student for one of his friend's student, master's thesis film, and managed to completely screw the entire thing over and wreck her thesis, and now she doesn't talk to him anymore. It's one of the things that, a pivotal moment in his life that he will talk about, that he's open about, but it's one of the things that he regrets the most. I've been trying to find with everybody that I talk to in the artistic industry, is this a common thread? Is this actually like a gate that you have to go through, a price you have to pay to be part of this?
What, upset all your friends?
There was at least one pivotal moment where you go, I am not as good as I thought I was, and you realize that something went sideways.
Oh, hell no. I spent the last 45 years waiting to find out when they're going to work out that I shouldn't actually be here and I'm a complete fraud. Yeah. It's
45 years of imposter syndrome.
I know so many more people who are so much better at this than me. Why did I get here? You know, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve a minute of it. Yeah, no, a continual
And one last question.
pain of frauddom. Yeah.
When you were approached again to go back to Star Wars, I know that you weren't expecting it, right? I know that Brian had a big thing to do with it when he shoved an NDA in your face, and then he could talk to you.
Oh, okay, yeah,
about
you've heard this. Okay, right. Yep.
You had famously said that they would want somebody younger,
Yes.
right? And the reason that you gave is old men have to pee, right?
That was the age I was when I was doing
Yes.
the physicality of a full body suit. I couldn't talk about it. Was I was doing a convention in Australia, and I knew the fans were all going to want to know about Force Awakens. We'd filmed it, but it hadn't come out yet, and the NDAs, I'm not allowed to talk about anything. So I thought, what'll I talk about? I know I'll talk about what it's actually like in a full body suit. And I'm thinking about it, and I realized that the stuff that we put up with voluntarily was not dissimilar to a lot of the torture techniques at Guantanamo Bay. You know, you get, when the scrim that you're trying to pull fresh air through gets covered in sweat, it's a bit like being waterboarded. The best effort in the world, and you can't get enough air in there, and you start to feel lightheaded. Sensory deprivation, you're lucky if you have a hole that big to see the world through when you're being left in here for hours. Yes, the old man has to pee. That was the reference to Rogue One. Admiral Rodas in Rogue One had so many servos in his head that he literally didn't have a hole that big to look through.
Okay.
He was working in complete pitch blackness, and we were in those costumes for over 7 hours.
I cannot imagine that.
You just, unless you really have good focus or have a great imagination, you can just drift away. It was actually all the way back on the Dark Crystal. We would be dressed in the Skeksis outfits. The Skeksis were only that tall, so we had to get in the holes in the floor, and then the costume dressed over us, and then we were there until lunchtime. There was no way to look out of the costume, and the only thing we had was our monitors on our chest. What would happen was, it would take so long setting up the shot that half of us would go into sensory deprivation and our brain would just drift away, and they'd call turnover, and half the Skeksis would pop alive and the other half would just be dum 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 dum, you know, like that. So the cameraman, bless him, He knew we had the monitors in there, and he stayed at his camera even when they were setting up shot, and he just sat there and panned it, and he just rolled the camera, so at least we could see, why we were waiting for so long, and oh, look at that, the makeup lady's getting hit on by the special effects guy. It just gave you something to watch instead of having nothing, which made your brain go away. So, it's one of the problems of a full body suit.
Well, Tim, this has been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for your time. It's always great to see that making coming forward and being more prevalent. You watch all of the cosplay that goes on here. I've loved almost everything. Well, everything that I've seen that you've worked on has been.
I was going to say, where was the almost? Which one didn't you like?
I didn't know that you were part of the Dark Crystal, so now that's another one that.
You didn't like the zombie tubbies, or?
I didn't know that existed, but now that's my new favorite thing. Tim, I appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
I hope your sound was okay with all of our lovely.
I'm sure it will be. If not, I'll make some audio magic happen.
Oh, good.
Thank you again, Tim. I do appreciate it.
Nice talking to you.